Hey everybody, it's early in the morning and I'm just packing back up to go back to college after being with my family over the winter. But before I do, I've decided to do a replay review for this person named Leksa, the tracer right here. They submitted a replay to CavalierGuest Discord in his replay share channel. So I play a fair amount of tracer myself at what I can hopefully say a high level and not come off as too braggadocious. So let's give this a shot. This is my first time seeing this replay, so I haven't seen any of this, and neither of you, so we'll take a shot at this. So right there, Lexa, you definitely could have gone for the melee on this Joe. There you go, you got it early. You didn't get it quite as early as you could have, but overall, very small detail. As long as you get it, that's okay. It's very important to get those melees out early and often, though, because those are almost half of your overall pulse bomb charge is going to come from those melees. Okay. Overall, fairly solid. So looking at this, I'm assuming this is a Hero League game. The comps seem fairly balanced. You should be ganking this rag here. Okay, that's one thing I just noticed. You meleeed while you still had 2 bullets left in your clip, and melee actually interrupts your auto-attacking. Meleeing or casting Pulse Bomb interrupts your auto-attacking, so you'll actually want to wait until your clip is empty, until your magazine is empty and you're all out of auto-attacks, and if you melee then, you won't slow down your DPS at all. So here, this Pulse Bomb is kind of a waste, just because there's 0 kill pressure. It is a little bit more harass, which is helpful, but it's not going to help you get a kill. I don't think there's a real reason to Hearth right here, because you still have your tap. So you probably could have tapped and stayed up there, and if you had done so, you most likely would have been able to save this Zagara's life. Oh yes, but I must say about the comps, I think this is a Hero League game based on how balanced these comps are. You have a main tank and a healer, a solo laner on each side, that sort of thing. But really, you shouldn't, in my opinion, be picking Tracer unless you have a Tassadar. You used to be able to pick Tracer with 2 supports. We saw MVP Black doing that in BlizzCon, but that was because double support was very strong in that meta. And with these blanket sweeping support nerfs, that actually is not the case anymore. Double support can still work, but it's nowhere near as strong as it was, and Tracer needs a lot of healing to perform at her highest potential, so I think that this is a bit of a mistake to even pick Tracer in this situation at all compared to something like a Greymane, but it looks like you made it work. Overall, you can probably still make it work in pretty much anything below Master, if I had to guess, but it's not something I'd recommend. Overall, you're doing exactly what you need to here. You could have blinked past her to body block and you wouldn't have had to tank a tower shot. Overall, though, still the right idea. Alright, let's speed this up a bit. Definitely too much damage being tanked there, and again, you don't need to Hearth. That tap could have served you very well here, and you'd be able to stop that Jaina from taking this top point. And if you had stopped the Jaina from taking this top point, not too much would have been different, but there could have been a change. Either way, you effectively took yourself, just with those 2 Hearths, you've taken yourself off the map for about 30 unnecessary seconds. Actually, probably longer than that. Between a 5-second Hearth and about a 15-second travel time, I'd say. Again, actually, like I spoke about earlier, if you hadn't slowed down your DPS by meleeing during your reload, you almost assuredly would have been able to kill that Jaina. That recall, sorry, rewind. You rewound a little bit early there and meleeed before finishing your magazine, and that actually cost you the kill. Again, here you should tap. There you go. So far you've caused your Zagara to die once and you've missed out on a kill. Okay, so there, you weren't actually in any danger, so there was no reason to blink away. Like, let's go back and look at that. So right here, you definitely need to blink out of this blizzard. I think you tanked the second hit. No, you only tank the first hit, that's fine. But when you blink to the right here, look at their positioning. Jaina has actually blown her cooldowns. Like if you go, I'm switching over to Jaina here, you can see nothing is available for her. She's just going to have a Q, and that's not going to be enough to kill you. So if you're not in any danger at all, it's important that you move to the side, but you still stay able to do damage. Because right now you're taking yourself out of hitting this Johanna. So if you had actually stayed hitting the Johanna there instead of running away, she would be significantly lower health. And you wouldn't have had to throw that pulse bomb in the first place. So right now you would have an extra pulse bomb if you didn't blink off of them, and then you could use that to kill this Alexstrasza, but it looks like she just kind of let you kill her anyway. So then you could have used it to kill the Nazebo. I believe he was low enough at the time to at least threaten it. So you most likely cost yourself another kill right there. I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just trying to make sure that you understand the consequences of various misplays. Okay, pretty solid harass. Alright. This is exactly what you need to do. Good job. Go straight to the Jaina. There, you used your blinks in the bush, which caused you to have fewer blinks for dodging. Overall, a lot of times that'll be punished. It wasn't there, though, so that's okay. There just didn't really seem to be a need to blink to her when you could have just walked up to her on your mount anyway. I've seen a couple missed pulse bombs already. That generally just... you need to slow things down a bit and get a little bit closer to the target and really start hitting your pulse bombs once you've taken the time to guarantee that your shots will land, and then you can start thinking about throwing them faster and at slightly longer range. For right now, that's my advice, is just take it slower and get a little closer. Because I think you've already missed 3 at this point. And that ult, having your ult before 10 is very helpful for really early game kill pressure. But, yeah, see, and there's another one. But if you miss all of them, then it doesn't really do much for you. Let's see. Good job zoning off that rag. Now it heads straight to bottom lane from here. Alright, good job. Good pressure on this Naz. That bomb looks like a waste. It's looking like if you just focus the Joe here. Okay, so your teammates did an excellent job of body blocking the Joe and focusing her well, but if your teammates hadn't played that perfectly, there was a significant chance you would have cost your team the kill there. These bruisers are very important to clear. I'm not sure what exactly you're doing here. Yeah, like, you already have someone in mid lane, and you have bruisers pushing in. You don't need 2 people mid lane in this situation. So it's definitely the call here to stay down here and clear. You've still got 1 more bruiser to deal with down there, and that's the most important one because it gives AoE armor. It was killed by the structures though, so you're alright. Wow, this is an interesting gank. I just didn't expect everyone, both you and the enemy team, to show up here, but it worked out. It looks like you tanked a lot of unnecessary damage, though. Let me go back and watch over this. Let's look at this again. Okay. So here, again, I think you blinked kind of early. I usually, when I'm engaging on targets, I get close enough that 1 blink will get me on the target. Blinking twice just seems like a little pushing it, if you ask me. Yeah, and then it looks like the recall came out just a hair late, and that actually cost you a lot of health. Let's see. So here, you hit the wrong target for just a little too long. So if you had blinked in and right-clicked the Naz a little earlier and recalled before this second Blizzard tick hit you, you would be at much, much higher health. That hit you for about 300, I think? No, more than that. Significantly more than that. Yeah, you could have saved yourself about 500-600 health there if you would hit recall on time. Let's see, and so then you wouldn't have to tap right now, so you would actually be pressuring this Jaina instead of waiting for this tap right here. So here, I'm not really sure why you're going up to the temple, because there's nobody mid lane. Hanzo's pushing in right now. He's not very likely pushing in this fort to actually go all the way over to this Dragon Knight and take it. And your teammates are about to fight. Like, watch the situation again as we go back. Oh, here, I got to, give me a second here. I just realized my mouse cursor was not showing. Hopefully it should be now. Overall, it's not going to make a huge difference, but it'll help me point something out right here. So right here, you should have rewound a little earlier and you wouldn't have taken all this damage. And you would be able to harass this Johanna right here. And so here, you know this Johanna is guaranteed damage right in front of you, and there's not too much point to standing on the temple to get this Dragon Knight based on the positioning of your teammates with this many of you up here and your Hanzo very far away from the Dragon Knight. No one's near it. No point in playing particularly hard for that temple, whereas you have guaranteed damage right in front of you. So you should have been hitting this Johanna for a while by now, and by going up here, this Jaina actually left the temple, so you've effectively taken yourself out of the top lane fight. This Jaina should already be dead, honestly, and you very nearly cost yourself the kill by going up top. The only reason you got it is because you were 3 levels ahead, and Tracer's damage scales insanely well when she's ahead because her pulse bomb scales at 5.5. So being ahead on levels on Tracer is even more dominant than on other characters. So that most likely would not have worked out as well if you were on equal levels there. Here, your teammate needs your help. Again, you're costing yourself all your blinks ahead of time. That's the trend that I'm noticing here, and you weren't able to blink back into this fight. What are you afraid of? I see you running back up here, and I'm not really sure what you're avoiding, because they're all going to be hitting your teammate here. Alright, so that when you're blinded like this, you actually want to halt, press H and stop shooting, and just reload, and that way you'll have a full magazine ready to go as soon as the blind is done, and you don't lose any DPS. Overall, though, this fight's okay. I would have definitely said that you should have just mounted up and run in, especially because you're in no race to blink onto a Johanna 4 times. That's not going to help you get the kill any faster, because it's Johanna. Maybe if you're rushing in to get a dive kill really fast, sure, it makes sense. In this situation, it doesn't. Here, pulse bomb the rag. Beautiful. Oh, you definitely could have stayed on the Ragnaros here. If you stayed where the Lucio is, Ragnaros doesn't really have an effective way to hurt you. All he can do is drop 1 meteor, and you just blink off of it and you're okay. It looks like you almost assuredly give up the Ragnaros kill here. Yeah, that was yours. You just have to think about it like this. Does the enemy team actually have a way of damaging me? Even if I'm at 25% health, can they actually hurt me? And in that situation, when it's a Rag and a Johanna, the answer is no, as long as you instantly blink out of that meteor. You'd have to stand in it for a while to actually die. There's not really much to say about that death, so much as just you should have held on to the blink. Yeah, you know your mistake there, it's not a big deal. We all have plays like that. Feels bad, man. Let's fast forward back to you getting back in the action here. Alright. So actually, I see that you took Bullet Spray, and I should have talked about this earlier. You're taking the correct build for most games so far. It's definitely what I would say is the correct build for this situation. But an interesting note about Bullet Spray, and I think you'll see it here. So you know how I've been getting onto you for hitting melee before your magazine is done? Well, it doesn't actually say it in the description at all. But Bullet Spray causes melee to no longer interrupt your auto-attacking, and you'll see that right here. When you melee, but your clip still went down at just 100% full speed. Here you're standing here body blocking, this is perfect. You're shooting a minion though, I'm not sure if you noticed that. And that recall was honestly 100% unnecessary. You could have just blinked out of that and you would have been fine, and that's actually a significant cooldown to be throwing out like that. Let's see. I want to watch this fight again because you took a lot of damage, and I want to see if that was able to be avoided. So here, definitely if you had shot her first, and also you don't need to be right next to this Muradin. Generally, as a rule, give people some space. So that way you can't take damage at the same time as your teammates. Because right here, you're standing on your Muradin the whole time. So this means that when Jaina comes in to pop her Cone of Cold, she was probably only looking to hit the Muradin and hit you at the same time. So there goes about 200 of your health right there. And then here you should be going to the right. So not only are you farther away from your Muradin, but if somebody comes and ganks you, or someone else comes in and rotates, because we only see where 3 of them are, it looks like 4 of them, sorry. We only see where 4 of them are, so this Nazebo right here, this guy could be anywhere for all you know. And if he shows up like right here, you want to have as much freedom to get out as possible, because it's entirely possible that if the Nazebo showed up below you right here, you try to blink away and you end up blinking to the right directly into a spider and you die. Whereas if you were already to the right and you blink away, you're out of his range. Overall, not a huge deal, it's just about minimizing risk. There's no reason not to do it, so you might as well. So then here, you're still standing way too close. You're standing in melee range, and you gotta remember that Bullet Spray at 13 actually increases your melee range. So you're closer than melee range at this point, and you're too close to the Muradin here. Like I said, just give your teammates some space. Because here, that actually causes you to tank a wave of the Blizzard, which I believe crits on you because you already have the Frost that you shouldn't have had in the first place. So here, you probably cost yourself about 1,000 unnecessary damage that fight, meaning you could have just tapped there, or even not tapped, and you honestly probably would have been fine. So that's an extra 20-ish seconds of not being on the map. And if you were there, you could have killed this Jaina, or gotten a free, what's it called? Sorry, I didn't realize that was for the enemy team, this Dragon Knight. But you definitely could have helped kill this Jaina. She's really bad and died to the Muradin anyway, but you don't want to play as if your opponents are bad, because as long as you do that, you'll only do well against bad enemies. And then as soon as you keep climbing and do well against bad enemies, and you go against people that aren't bad, all of a sudden your strats don't work anymore, and then you go back to the same MMR that you were at before, and then you make a post on Reddit complaining about MMR hell. That's just the cycle of life with a lot of these players. So it's important to break out of these bad habits, even if they work. Part of what made me climb a lot was when I would look at something and I would be able to critique a good play. I'd be able, like a play that worked out really well for me, I would be able to look at it and go, that worked out there, but it wouldn't have if my opponent had played it properly. Because then I'm thinking about the correct play, both from their point of view and from mine, which helps me understand how to play that character better and understand the macro of the situation, and it helps me improve and form good habits. So let's see, here, you're standing exactly where you need to, you're right next to your teammate, not necessarily in terms of micro position, but just where you are on the map. This is good. Okay, this is perfect right here. You're just outside of Gargantuan range. You're on the left, so he can't run that way, but you're still in a position that you can chase him through the bush if necessary. This is the dream position. You kind of backed up unnecessarily there, and cost yourself a lot of damage by spending so much time auto-attacking the Gargantuan and not the Nazebo. The play here, in my opinion, was to hit the Ragnaros, who is in much deeper by that point. You definitely could have this Ragnaros at about 10% if you just focused him instead, and then your Muradin wouldn't be so low and he would already be dead. Like this Rag, if you just auto-attack him a few times, melee pulse bomb, heck, without even the auto-attacks, I think, he's guaranteed dead right here. I'm not sure what you're actually doing. You have a Dragon Knight on the mid-wave here, and you have a confirmed Rag right by your siege camp that you just saw. I think this is a map awareness thing, but you're costing yourself a kill here, and that would actually provide a very significant boost into 16, which is a massive increase for Tracer. Like 16, Tracer has a ridiculous power spike. Okay, so the Rag is hella bad. But again, like I said, it's not about what works against bad players, it's about forming the best habits possible. It's very important to kill those globes as you get them, because now this Lucio wouldn't feel compelled to follow you and heal you, So you're actually wasting a bit of this Lucio's time, because he could be over here with your Muradin by not getting that globe. And also, you had to go back and kill it anyway, so just kill it while you're there. It only took like an extra 2 bullets. Let's see. That bomb came out really late and made you spend extra time shooting. You gotta remember, your bomb does insane damage after level 10 with Pulse Bomb. Like, that's 988 plus 10% of Nazeebo's health, which is... gosh, this is not what the game is supposed to look like. Let's see. Which, he's got like 3k health here. So your cost... So it does 900... Or 1200 damage, sorry. And when this Naz actually pops, he has... Let's take a look here. When this Naz actually dies to you, he had about 737 health. So you did about 500 completely unnecessary damage there. You definitely popped your bomb way too early, assuming his Pulse Bomb was off cooldown. If his Pulse Bomb was on cooldown, honestly, I probably wouldn't even focus the Naz for that reason alone, because he has Pulse Bomb, or because he has Ice Block, sorry, I misspoke. Because he has Ice Block, he's not a prime Pulse Bomb target because he can just avoid all of the damage, and you did skip right by the Alexstrasza, who I think was a higher priority target because of Ice Block, and just because she was the first target you came by. So let's take another look at that. So right here, you've got the Alexstrasza. You don't even need to use any more blinks to get on her. You're already on her at this point. She is in Pulse Bomb range. She is going to die if you hit it on her. The only way she can avoid it is by ulting or dragon forming, but she doesn't seem to be doing that. So, and that's also significantly harder to pull off than ice blocking. And in my opinion, that's definitely the play here. But it seems like the Naz's ice block was just coming off of cooldown, so you came in very lucky right there. But again, that's not something that would work in most cases, so that's a habit you need to break, or at least something you need to consider. There, you focused a target that didn't really have any real chance of dying, which is a bad habit a lot of players have. Let's look at that again. I skipped a little too far back, I'm sorry. So after you get this Naz kill, this Alex is so far away that there's no real chance that you kill her, again, unless she just plays it absolutely terribly. Right here, you've zoned her out, and that's good, but in my opinion, you should have just focused this Johanna. Because if you saw how low she got to 738 health. If you could have focused her that entire time, there's a very strong chance that she dies right there. So I do believe you cost yourself a kill there. See, at the very least, Joe would already be dead right here. And that recall seemed a bit unnecessary as well. So you get very lucky in getting the Lucio kill, but actually cost your team a significant time in terms of chasing this Johanna around by recalling too early right there. So let's take a look at that again. So right here, there's no real point to this recall. You're right next to the Siege Giants camp down here, and if you were to blink towards that, you could break tower damage, or break fort damage, sorry. But you can also, remember, recall projectiles that are already in the air towards you, most of them. You can't do it for Pyroblast, but that's another story. So you still could have actually tanked a few tower shots and been completely fine, or just avoided them through either blinking away or recalling, either one, and you would have gotten a guaranteed very fast double kill here. That melee alone that you just used would have killed this Alex and gotten the Johanna low enough that you could have easily blinked after her one time and killed her, and you would have saved your team probably about 15 seconds of chasing this person around. Which means that this camp would be being finished right about now, and you would already be on this fort, so you effectively wasted a lot of your team's time by doing that. Let's see. Again, don't be so loose with your rewinds. That's actually an extremely important cooldown, because rewind allows you to play aggressively and allows you to dive when you want. So if you're just throwing it just to get like a couple auto attacks on someone, it's not worth it all, because you're saying, hey, I don't want to have the ability to be aggressive for the next 26 seconds, I think it is. Yeah. So here, you would be able to harass this Nazebo. Oh, and please... Okay, I was going to say, oh, you did tank the Toad. It's very important to just avoid obvious skill shots like those. It's actually kind of weird. Stuff that's really big and really obvious, a lot of people don't avoid. I'm not really sure why, but the easiest skill shots a lot of times are some of the ones people tank the most. It's just important not to tank stuff like that, because not only would you be giving him Toad stacks, and it's not like you're going to check in the middle of a fight whether or not he's finished his Toad quest. Maybe you already know he did, but either way, it's just unnecessary damage. Sometimes you're giving people quest stacks and all that, and overall there's just no point to it. Here, you guys know that they're doing their bruiser camp, and everyone's relatively close by, and you're up 16. You should definitely be invading right now. There's only a couple minions top lane. Let's go take a look at them. Yep, we have 4 people on it right now, but their Johanna's way in the bot lane. If you had invaded right there, it's almost a certainty you would have gotten a quadra kill. At least 2 kills, at the very least. And stolen the bruiser camp. And then you would have just snowballed off of that to the victory. Let's see. At this point, though, the best call is just to clear this camp. You can harass this rag whenever he steps out that far. Oh, whoops. Again, you're not in any danger at all. I think the fort was actually hitting Muradin, or at least about to anyway. And the Muradin doesn't seem to have noticed that you dived, so you're completely abandoning your team here. Without a doubt, this rag would be dead if you had stayed in. And you definitely cost yourself a kill, and also they wouldn't have been able to chase this Muradin so freely, and Jaina wouldn't have been able to brazenly walk up in Ring of Frost. Rag wouldn't have been able to so callously sulfurous smash your healer if you were still in there. So definitely I'd say lay off of the rewind a bit. You're very trigger happy with hitting it as soon as you see pretty much anything, and that's definitely something that I think you need to work on, because you're costing yourself a lot of aggressive potential by doing that. So here, this Muradin's taking a lot of unnecessary damage. Ooh, and you didn't have your recall because you used it. Is it really recall? I've been calling it rewind as long as I can remember. You wasted your recall earlier, so you weren't actually able to use it to burst down that rag. Overall, I think if you had it, you most likely could have pulled it off. Not in that specific implementation, but I think there was a good chance. I'm not really sure what you mean by queuing your W, because I don't ever do that when I play Tracer. Do you mean like blink, like Q, like QQ, and then like blink, blink, Q your W? Because I don't ever do that. It doesn't seem to be in my head that effective, at least. But you definitely could have gotten at least one more kill top lane there. Probably saved your own life and that of your Lucio if you didn't blow your recall that early, and then you would have control over this top temple and pretty much a guaranteed Dragon Knight at that point. And then also you'd be here to kill this Ragnaros because he's so overextended, or he wouldn't have pushed up in the first place and this would still be an easy Dragon Knight. Again, this Ragnaros is super boosted, so it looks like they get the kill anyway. No, you would definitely be able to finish him off, though, if you had shown up, because now your team is the one overextending, because you killed yourself unnecessarily. They still barely make it out, though, because they were bailed out. But again, even though this had an okay result, this could have gone significantly better. Alright, let's take a look at this. Remember, meleeing the Dragon Knight? Like, hitting the Dragon Knight counts as hitting a hero for pretty much all purposes, and that's very important for Tracer because it is free 20% pulse bomb charge. You need to be getting on that fast and often. Here, you're a little too far out. If you were hitting this more from the right, you would actually be able to blink behind the towers and make the Dragon Knight both waste a lot of time, overextend, and not actually do anything with this kick. So you actually end up recalling to avoid it, which again is a massive waste, because if you had just blinked behind your towers by being a little more to the right, then you would have been able to waste its time and still be aggressive. Now you can't make any aggressive dives that use up all your blinks, because either you won't do it, or like we saw over in top, in this area, you'll die afterward. And it's important that you don't waste recall, because the better you get about doing that and about saving your recall for aggressive dives, the better you are at holding on to long streaks of kill, and you'll actually end up getting a lot more value out of Untouchable at level 4. And Untouchable at level 4, once you're able to make good use of it, is a game changer. So here, let's see. Overall, not a huge deal. You could have definitely looked to dive the Naz if you had recall, and at the very least, you could have probably made Jaina waste her cooldowns hitting you rather than your teammates or structures, and you would have just recalled them. Like right there, you see how you recalled and Jaina didn't hit you with anything, although I think part of that was just her missing. That could have been incorporated into your dive on the Nazebo, and you would have done a lot of damage and wasted a lot of their push. Like, that is the biggest thing that I'm noticing so far, is just being way too loose with your recall casts. Staying a little too close to your teammates, blinking in when you can just ride in, that sort of thing. Alright, let's see. Okay, that was alright. Here, they're definitely doing the siege camp, so it's the correct idea absolutely to pressure this Nazebo. I love it. Because this way, if you pressure the Naz early, then either they step off of the camp and they do it slower, and then you just back up, so you've wasted a lot of their time, or you get a bunch of free damage on the Naz as they stay on the camp. Either way, it's a win-win. I know this didn't happen, but it's a good note, actually, that in Zombie Wall, Tracer can actually just blink out of it as if it's not there with zero repercussions. It's a good Tracer tip for the future. I don't think that recall was necessary there. So let's take a look at that again. Like, that to me is one of, if not the biggest mistake I see Tracer players make. You have to respect that 26-second cooldown. So let's take a look at this here. Wait. I think I missed it. How did you lose all your blinks? Are they from blinking away there? So you've got 2 here. You're about to get a 3rd. So that blink, again, was unnecessary. I think that you could have just strolled right up to this Naz, using at most 1 blink to get on him with a little bit of the surprise factor, and you would have been okay. But because you used 1 blink into the wave and then 2 getting onto the Naz, in my opinion, completely unnecessary, you have no choice but to recall out of this, which is a bad decision. Because now you can't be harassing this rag. Like, for instance, if you were up harassing this rag with your recall out, they would be forced to chase you around and waste their time, and you'd get a ton of free damage in for pretty much no consequence. Let's see here. So far, I gotta say, I do like the build. This is the standard build for Tracer. For most situations, there are certain variations you can make on it, and I'll talk about those now that your build is complete. At level 1, I recommend Pull Strike pretty much every game, so good job. There are uses for Tracer rounds. It's actually almost completely useless versus stealth characters. A lot of people don't know that, but that's true. Because most stealth characters, either you hit them and they're revealed anyway, or the ways they get into stealth, like Valera's Vanish or Nova's Ghost Protocol, actually purge the debuff. So it's good for seeing people as they go into bushes and disrupting rotations. Overall, that's significantly harder and more niche of a use than Pull Strike, which is massive value, so this is a good choice. Level 4, as I mentioned earlier, Parting Gift. This is a good choice for most players in most games. I do think that once people get really good habits about staying alive, dodging skill shots, holding on to recall, and using it when they need to, Untouchable becomes a very attractive choice. But you can almost never go wrong with Parting Gift. Jumper is great in most situations. I personally like Bullet Time when I'm in a game where I'm pretty much the hard carry, and I'm expected to do all the heavy lifting, like double support, double tank type games. And then just a lone Tracer. We saw some of this in BlizzCon, I believe on Cursed Hollow, where a team actually went Bullet Time in that situation, because the Tracer is going to be doing a lot of auto-attacking and running around anyway in very long, drawn-out fights, so that's when Bullet Time's good. Jumper fits the situation perfectly, though. 10 is Quantum Spike every time, so good choice. 13, Bullet Spray. Ricochet is also a very good choice, especially with Untouchable, because the bonus attack damage also applies to the Ricochet attacks, so Ricochet gives you a huge boost and lifesteal, which is very important with a Tassadar, not as much without one, but overall still effective. This is generally the good choice, though, because like I said, Ricochet leans on Untouchable a bit, isn't as effective without it, and also Ricochet benefits greatly from your 16, so it's more of a late game talent. Some of its value is offloaded into the late game. Same thing with Untouchable. Untouchable won't do anything for you until you get a couple stacks, which is significantly into the game, whereas Parting Gift is kill pressure as soon as you take it. So that's a very late game build that requires a lot of discipline and game sense. Whereas this is much more of a generalist build, and like I said, you can almost never go wrong with this. At 16, you took Sleight of Hand. In my opinion, Sleight of Hand is great, and it's one of those things that, again, you can't really go wrong with, but Locked and Loaded is the best choice if you can do it. If you're really looking to be a great tracer, you have to be able to hit Locked and Loaded at 16 and hit it consistently, because it is a ridiculous DPS increase, and also, like I said, works very well with Untouchable Ricochet build, because, again, the attack damage bonus is also being applied to your Ricochet target, which is a ridiculous increase to your overall AoE damage. You put out insane amounts of damage. You go from being a sort of dive bombery, bursty-esque character with this build into a just ridiculous, crazy machine gun teamfight destroyer with the other build. I'm not really trying to lecture you too much about that build. It's a build that I run most games, but I do think that it's something you should be aware of and understand why it's good. Overall, though, Sleight of Hand is good. Reduces your reload time, 20% more DPS, that's solid. It does give you a little bit more Pulse Bomb charge, but as I mentioned at the start of the game, almost half of your charge, assuming you're playing well, is coming from your melee, actually, so this isn't as impressive as you might think for thinking about how much more charge it gives you. Overall, though, like I said, the build is solid. At 20, this is Get Stuffed pretty much every single time, so good job on that pick. Heavy synergy with the rest of this build, with how much melee you have, especially at 13 and 1, so this fits very well. It also makes it very easy to burst somebody down, especially with the Quantum Spike, before the enemy team can respond with defensive cooldowns, so really good job there. Overall, the build is solid. Alright, now enough about me going over your talents for like 5 minutes, let's move on. Good blink. That was an unnecessary second blink though, and you've effectively taken yourself out of the action. You're much too far away right now, and you should have been auto-attacking constantly at that point. I see what you're going for here. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. That was exactly what you should have done. I will say you should have more blinks. From that extra blink where you were already out of danger and you blinked again, that cost you the ability to harass for longer because now you're down a blink and you weren't auto-attacking as long as you could have been.
The shrines are gathering power.
Let's see. Again, there's not really anything to fear here, so don't worry about backing up. I would definitely say you should focus the Alex here. Alex has very little self-healing because she can only self-heal with her abundance. So focusing the Johanna, especially after 20 when she's extremely likely to pick Indestructible, I believe as it's called, where she gets a massive shield upon reaching 1 health, is a huge waste of time. It's definitely the Alex here with her very low self-healing. Okay. Good, you switched to the correct target, that's good. I do think that, again, hitting the Johanna here is almost assuredly a waste of time, but this Johanna is very bad. Again, things that work against very bad players are not something that you should make habits out of. If that Jo knew what she was doing, you were not getting the kill there. At least not until her Indestructible wore completely off, and by that point, you've spent so much time on it that you almost assuredly could have killed the Ragnaros. Let's see. This is decent. There's no reason to Hearth here. You have Lucio healing you. And your Muradin could probably use you with him, so Lucio actually wasted some time thinking that you were going to notice he was healing you, and so you actually held back this Lucio from helping out your Muradin and unnecessarily held yourself back too. So there's a very large chance that you would have been able to steal this Bruiser camp and probably get a kill or two, or get this temple earlier and secure the Dragon Knight earlier. You cost your team a lot of potential with that unnecessary Hearth right there. Okay, that was solid. Didn't get hit by the center, which was the main thing I was going to look out for there. Sorry, it's very early and my throat is extremely scratchy. There, you definitely could have grabbed that regen globe and you would be at full health, and these things make a huge difference. You took unnecessary damage from tanking, I think, 2 Alex Qs and not getting a globe, so you could be coming into this with full health, and that's effectively a buff saying Tracer now has 700 more damage, or health, sorry. Or in your case, you've effectively nerfed yourself by 600, 700 health going into this fight. So maybe you'd feel a little bit better about moving up forward to harass. Let's see. Overall, you're extremely far back right there when you were by the Creep Tomb, or you should be up farther than this. There's nothing to be afraid of. You have a Dragon Knight, and it's a 5v4. There's absolutely nothing to be afraid of, but it looks like your team's going to roll over to mid lane for some reason. This team is chasing way too far. You guys have a Dragon Knight and Tracer. Tracer punishes overextensions like almost no one else, because if the enemy team goes a little bit too far versus a Tracer team, they can't be like, oops, sorry, we take it back, let's go back to our base. No, Tracer is sticking with you the whole journey back, and they've got a long way to go to get to safety. I think this was definitely an overextension that could have been punished by this Naz or anyone like it. Let's see. However, the Zag isn't really in a position for that, and neither is the rest of your team from the looks of it, so this is decent. I do think it's an option that should have been explored, though. Because all you really got out of that was a keep, and I think you could have gotten more. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. You saw the kill and took it, and those are the kinds of plays that having recall off cooldown allows you to make. Beautiful, absolutely well done right there. You guys need to be making aggressive moves with this 5v4, so if you don't go ahead and steal this siege camp right here, I'd definitely call it a misplay. In fact, I'd call it a misplay that you guys didn't immediately skedaddle over to this bruiser camp right here and take that, and then the siege camp, and then just pushed in mid. No, there's no reason to be going for yours right now. You want to be making aggressive moves with the 5v4, and you want to be pushed up about where this Muradin is so you can effectively capitalize on any engages he makes. Because when you, let's take a look at this again. When you started fighting the siege camp from the right side here, you made it so that in order to follow up, you would have to blink in, and you actually cost yourself 3 entire blinks going into this fight. I noticed that. You go to one blink right here to follow up for something that should have been at most 1 blink. So you should have 3 blink charges right now, and then you would be able to very comfortably move up and harass the rest of this team rather than having to use your recall. And you're very close to having a pulse bomb, but you won't have your recall up for it. And also you'd be getting out significantly more harass damage here. So you cost yourself a lot of damage, and you probably could have saved this Muradin's life by doing all that damage to the enemy team. It looks, yeah, he barely dies to the meteor, and honestly I think you killed him there by recalling unnecessarily. This rag is dead. 100% this rag is dead. Just hit him. Alright, push him into your team here. So remember, a very significant portion of get stuff to 20 is actually the knockback when you explode this, and you're at the perfect angle to walk right up to this rag, put a bomb on him, and just push him directly into your 2 teammates here. Into your 3 teammates, sorry. And this is a guaranteed kill, and you seem to be walking away from it. It also meant that you took a lot of unnecessary damage there, and the Lucio has to chase you down to heal you back up. It's actually a really big deal in the late game. Like, Get Stuffed basically allows you to insta-pulse bomb kill whoever you want, even from full health, because of the fact that you can push them into your team with blinking behind them. And that's part of why this build is more of a dive bombery build, because Jumper at 7 gives you that extra blink, so even more range, even more comfort in blinking behind the target in the late game and pushing them into your own team. Here, this is definitely a steal on the Bruiser camp. There are no temples to be playing for right now, and you guys seem to be just kind of dancing around. You have a 4v4, but they have 2 camps to be clearing, and this rag is super low, so you have the clear advantage. It's basically a 4v3 at this point. This is a very easy steal on the Bruiser camp. That was what, in my opinion, you guys should have done, and there's a very strong chance you would have gotten an easy 4v3 fight, and then just an easy stomp at that point, because if you get a double kill there, the game is over. At this point, your Zagara is overextending, and there's a chance she's getting ganked, because they did just take this camp, but it looks like they opted to go bottom lane for some reason, to the lane their rag is already clearing. If they had made the correct decision, they probably would have ganked this Zagara, and there's a very strong chance you would have just let her die right here. Again, that's not your fault that she's overextending, but you can still handle it better. I'm not sure if you actually had vision on the enemy team rotating down, though, so let me take a look at that before I call you out. Let's take a look at this from your vision. Oh, you do see this Naz. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see this right here. I was paying more attention to the calls and whatnot. And she does have creep right there. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry about that. What I said was not true based on the situation. So taking this Bruiser camp was absolutely the right call. Here, clearing this is the way to go. Now you'll have a camp advantage because your Bruiser camp will be alive and theirs won't. Again, there you should have halted your attacks so that way you wouldn't have wasted any bullets while blinded and you can maximize your DPS. And those like 4 or 5 bullets that you probably lose out on here, yeah, you shot over half your clip. I think you shot 6 bullets, yeah, and completely blinded. They didn't do anything. So that cost yourself a significant amount of damage in this. And then another big note about that, I said earlier that you should halt while blinded to stop yourself from wasting bullets. That might sound kind of awkward, you know, who wants to reach way over to H to do that? So what I actually did to make that significantly easier for myself, I went to my hotkeys, and this used to be H and this used to be S, I believe, or maybe it's the other way around. But I went ahead and I took my, I think this is on my other account, so that's why these are backwards. But I took my halt key, my hold key, and I put it on S, and I took my stop key and I put it on H, and that allows you to press S and stop auto-attacking, because by default, when you press S on Tracer, she stops moving, but she doesn't stop auto-attacking. So if you swap those two, you can now press S to stop attacking, and that means that you won't shoot into Genji Deflect or Zarya Shield, you won't waste bullets while blinded, that kind of thing, and you don't have to reach all the way over to H. You can just press S, which is right next to where your fingers naturally are when playing a MOBA, and that makes a huge difference in these kinds of plays, where speed is important. Not too much to talk about right here. Okay, you definitely could have blinked out of that, and you would have saved yourself about 400 damage. I don't think it's going to matter too much. Oh, yeah. Again, not really much to say about that. You know not to blink into Ring of Frost. It's no big deal. But again, really avoid that Sulfurous Smash. I know you might be thinking, like, as long as I'm not in the middle getting stunned, I'm okay. But you took like 400 damage from that outer smash. And then you also took some more damage from another source. I believe it was Nazebo. Let me take a look here. Wow, that's... I didn't go back far enough. Okay, so you have a dot on you as if you have viral infection. Let's take a look at this. So here, this smash is definitely a source of unnecessary damage. Let's see. Oh, and then spiders. Can't really fault you for getting hit by those. It looks like you just barely blinked onto this. You're just a hair inside that Ring of Frost. Can't really fault you for that. Just try to avoid that in the future. Let's fast forward back to you being in this game.
Well, that just happened.
Okay, beautiful. That's exactly what you should have done. Beautiful. Okay. Literally perfect right there. Exactly what you needed to do. Good job. This is a free Dragon Knight. Let Muradin take this. You provide so much more damage for the final push than he does. He needs to take this while you guard. Perfect. You can clear this wave right here. You're wasting Pulse Bomb charge, actually. You could have gotten quite a bit of Pulse Bomb charge there. And let's see, that was at least one full magazine in a melee. That's 26%. You could be at 84% right here. And if you were at 84% Pulse Bomb charge, one melee on this J-Knight gives you the bomb. Or if you're at 84%, three full magazines gives you a Pulse Bomb as well. So this actually is not a kill because you cost yourself the Pulse Bomb by not hitting that mid-wave there. You very much could have gotten on her, forced out the ice block, Pulse Bombed her, and then gotten the kill. It looks like you'll still win the game anyway, but it still would have been good. Yeah, if you already have the Pulse Bomb, you want to only melee after Pulse Bomb if you already have it. And that's especially important after 20, because then you can use it for the instant burst and to knock people away. Whereas if you don't have Pulse Bomb and you're at like 84%, like I said, then melee lets you reach that Pulse Bomb. So, but if you already have it, you want to have that charge for later. Again, you've already won the game, so I'm sure you're not worried about playing 100% perfectly at this point, but it's something important to know. Alright, Leksa, I hope you got a decent amount out of this, or anyone who's watching this. I'm going to be doing more stuff like this in the future, and I have a very large tracer guide coming up with a lot of the info that I said in this video and many other things, so I really hope you tune into that and watch all of that. And just contact me if you have any further questions about this, or if you have any other replays. I actually have a channel in my Discord. I'm going to drop a link in the description. I have a channel there for anybody who wants to give me a replay, and I can do this for you as well.